What's going on YouTube? So the Toyota Avalon has always been known as kind of a grandpa car for someone who maybe doesn't want to buy a Buick. But this new generation has been very serious about shedding that image. If you were ever in doubt of that mission, look no further than this TRD, which is by far the most extreme Avalon to ever grace the earth. But does it have legit performance to back up those looks? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's get started here with the exterior design, because that's really what is going to just grab a lot of attention as soon as you see it. Now, this generation of the Avalon, actually, all the trim levels are pretty aggressive. So the TRD actually has not changed the main part of the grille. It continues to be absolutely gigantic. One of the biggest grilles I've ever seen equipped on a sedan. Just takes up basically the entire face. But what's different about this TRD is that you add some more aggressive elements. So down here, all of this is blacked out, and you have this lower body kit, which goes all the way around the entire vehicle. Now, one thing that's important to know about this TRD is that it is based on the XSE trim level. So it is gonna miss a few of the niceties on that fully loaded touring trim level, including the LED headlights with the dynamic turn signal. This is the more basic setup. It's still LED, but it's the LED reflector headlights. Now, coming down here to your wheels, these are obviously not what you usually get on your typical Avalon, since you have the special TRD exclusive design, a matte black finish with the red TRD branding in the middle. They do have a unique material build as well, and Toyota brags that they're actually 18 pounds less than the 19-inch wheels on the XSE trim level. Furthermore, the brakes are also upsized on this TRD to 12.9-inch 2-piston calibers. And then coming up here to your mirrors, they are finished in the metallic black. Of course, they have standard heating as well as blind spot monitoring.
Alrighty, and so coming around to this Avalon TRD's rear design, obviously this is going to be another area where this TRD really sports things up. So as far as the feature set itself is concerned, up top you are going to have a large blacked out spoiler up top. However, it's not the wing design like the Camry TRD, which I think is a little bit of an interesting choice. And then coming down, we have fully LED taillights, same design as the regular Avalon. We have blacked out badging. And then down at the bottom, this is going to be another area where you're going to see quite a few differences. Of course, like Drew mentioned, you have this blacked out trim going all the way throughout the entire design. And then you have these dual large diameter catback exhaust instead of the quad exhaust actually shown on the Touring and XSE models. Now, as with pretty much every other Toyota, it does come standard with Toyota Safety Sense on this Avalon TRD, so that does mean you'll have a high level of safety equipment as standard across the models. As far as those safety systems, that's going to be pre-collision braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, auto high beam headlights, dynamic radar cruise control, and that's in addition to the blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. Well guys, that sums up the really cool exterior styling of this Avalon TRD. So now let's go ahead and hop inside before we take it on a test drive.
So of course, as you would expect, the Avalon TRD does come standard with Toyota Smart Entry System as well as their typical key fob. And to get inside the vehicle itself, all you have to do is just grab behind the handle because there is a sensor. Now, taking a look inside of this TRD Avalon, as you can see, it's really about 90% typical Avalon, but there's a lot of special touches to kind of set this aside as the more special product. One of those big touches is going to be different seats. So as you can see, this is a sport seat. We have Alcantara insert and red accenting and stitching, as well as TRD branding. And black is the only interior combination that you can get inside of the TRD. Now turning over here to your door trim, those same materials are also up here. So you have a leatherette across the armrest with a color contrast stitching, leather above that, and it is soft touch along the top. Of course, all four of your windows are one-touch automatic. And then coming down here to your seats, these are your 10-way power adjusting seats with 2-way lumbar support. And I don't know if I mentioned, this is a Softex faux leather, and like I said, you have the suede inserts. Now, of course, even though this is the sporty Avalon, that does not mean you're going to see a decrease in the material quality of this cabin. So it still remains very luxurious. You have a soft touch plastic across the top part. And then right here through the middle, you have a genuine textured aluminum trim. Down below that, we have a leatherette with some more of that red color contrast stitching. And then even moving down here to our lower areas, all of this is padded for your knee to rest against. And of course, in typical Toyota fashion, everything in here does fit together very solidly, no panel gaps or anything like that. Now to start up the Avalon, we have push button start. And as soon as you press that button, you'll be reminded this is not your typical Avalon. Now, as far as your gauges here, this is pretty much your typical Avalon affair. Mostly analog gauges, but you do have a 7-inch multifunction display in the middle with a ton of different types of information. One thing to be aware of, though, is that, like I've already mentioned, since this is based on the XSE, you're not going to find a head-up display. That's only on the higher-end trims of the Avalon. And then coming back here to the steering wheel, of course, you do have electric power-assisted steering with a nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. And once again, since this is based on just the XSE, that means the steering wheel itself is manual tilt and telescoping, and we are also missing heating. Alright, so let's go ahead and move into interior storage. Now I have to say, even though this is a pretty big sedan, I am very impressed by the storage here. Once you remove this, you'll notice this is an absolutely gigantic center console for a sedan. You do have a nice padding down at the bottom, as well as 3 different USB ports. Then up in front of that, you have 2 cup holders, another large storage area right over here with a 12-volt outlet, and furthermore, you can even slide this out of the way, and you have another hidden storage bin, and inside of that is where you'll find your Qi wireless phone charger. So really a lot of impressive amount of space in this cabin. Now coming back here to the steering wheel, as you can see, you have a special TRD shifter. It is fully leather wrapped with a nice color contrast stitching design. It really feels nice in the hand. Now of course it is just traditional operation, so pull back for drive, bump to the left here to shift manually, or you do have paddle shifters. And then going into reverse, this trim level will come standard with just the regular backup camera. However, as you can see, it does have active trajectory. And then right behind that, you have the automatic deploying electronic parking brake, as well as brake hold feature, and your 3 different drive modes. Alright, so now to move on up the dashboard here to our climate controls. Now, just like every Avalon, you have a dual zone automatic setup with very simple adjustment here with all physical controls. The TRD does include 3-stage heated seats as well. And then further up this tower, you have your audio controls. Now, we actually have the optional JBL sound system, which is packaged with the navigation system. However, I'm having some Bluetooth struggles here today, so I'm not going to be able to give you guys a sample of it. But from what I remember sampling it about a year ago in a limited Avalon, is that it sounds very, very nice. Alright, so now let's go ahead and kind of check out the Intune 3.0 system. Now, as you can see, this is bigger than typical Toyotas because it is 9 inches. And like I said, we also have the optional navigation system on this example. Additionally, since this is a 2020 Toyota, we now have Android Auto in addition to Apple CarPlay, which was already on board. Now moving up from that, we have a frameless auto-dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes built into the bottom of it. And on the TRD, you will also find a standard power moonroof. This is just your regular size unit since a panoramic one is not available on any Avalon. Alright, so that is going to conclude everything to look at in the front part of the cabin. So now go ahead and hand it off to Mason to check out all the space you have in the back.
Alrighty, so getting back in this Avalon TRD's rear seat. Obviously this is still an Avalon after all, and there is a ton of space back here and it's extra comfy. So here in the center, as far as the features are concerned, we do have rear vents standard on the TRD, as well as 2 smart charging USBs. You will not find heated rear seats on this TRD model though, unlike some of the higher end Avalons. And I do want to take a second to point out the rear seat design. You do still have the Alcantara as well as your red seat belts. The armrest does fold down. You have 2 cup holders inside. And then as far as the actual legroom measurements, you're going to come in at 40 inches of rear legroom and 38 inches of rear headroom, which is plenty of space for pretty much anyone. So behind your seating position, I would say at least a foot, if not more space, and my feet definitely are happy to slide up under the seat. So this is a lot of space and a lot of comfort, especially for something as performance oriented as this TRD. So walking up to the trunk, all you have to do to open it is locate the button over here on the right side, and it does open right up. Now once inside, you're going to find 16.1 cubic feet of space in this Avalon model, which is obviously a lot of space. And as far as the seats itself, you can fold them 60-40 split. And then as far as it's finished back here, we do have a nice carpeting along the floor, and up underneath of the floor we do have a spare tire. Now over here at your passenger seat, you do have an 8-way power adjusting seat since you are missing out on the lumbar from the driver's side. And in front of the passenger, you do have a glove box. It goes back quite a good ways, but it is very narrow. And up top, we do have a sun visor with a light mirror, and it does also detach and extend.
Right there.
Yeah.
That was all the way to 65, uphill.
I know, that's a pretty steep hill when we went up it on pretty much anything else.
Yeah, it's a far cry from some of the other things we climbed up that hill with.
The Elantra.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the performance right off the top here. This actually is the same 3.5 liter V6 engine as you have in the regular Avalon. So you're going to continue to make 301 horsepower, 267 pound-feet of torque. Those are, of course, very healthy numbers, and it is a pretty powerful machine, but what makes it feel different I guess is the exhaust.
Yeah.
It does not seem the same at all, actually behind the wheel here. And I guess, you just have such a feeling of performance when you have a deep exhaust like this has. Like Mason mentioned on the outside, this is the upgraded catback TRD exhaust. Really impressive.
Yeah, I will say it has a pretty deep tone, especially for a V6. And when you switch into sport mode, which we will do a little later in this drive, it actually gets even deeper. So it's actually a really, really good exhaust system.
I have to say, right off the bat here, this is already putting a smile on my face.
Yeah, you can really tell. I'm pretty impressed because it feels very tight. You know, this is an Avalon, and it does, like, the suspension feels very tight.
Yeah, I mean, look at the handling here. I mean, you can definitely tell the improvements. You know, of course, they made the cosmetic improvements like we've already talked about. But what really counts is the performance enhancements. That's what people are really looking for, and there's quite a slew of them. For one, our center of gravity is 0.6 inches lower because the vehicle is lower. We're on different springs. We have a tighter stabilizing bar, and you can actually feel these things. And the regular Avalon was no slouch either, because performance has just you know, been a focus of what Toyota wanted to enhance with this new generation, and they really have. I mean, it corners really flat. You know, it's odd, I guess you could say. I'm saying these things and I'm riding in an Avalon, and like you're saying, you're really just cruising along, and I'm totally comfortable, you know. A little bit firmer. Obviously, you know, grandparents or whatever, they're not going to be interested in this car anyways. You know, this is probably a little firmer than what they want, but I know we haven't got the chance to do it on our own, but the TRD Camry, I know people have said that rides quite firm, and this is softer than that. So you know, if you test drove the TRD Camry, maybe it was a little firmer than you liked, you know, this kind of dials that back just a touch so you can be a little bit more comfortable. Now I want to talk about that right there. That is this car's 8-speed automatic transmission, and I'm really impressed by how responsive it is. When you put your foot down, it shifts down. Like, you have that power immediately. There is no delay. You know, it switches through gears really seamlessly, really smoothly, but like I said, you know, you have no delay, so I'm really impressed by that. And when I flip it over here into manual mode here in a second, I am anticipating that the same thing will apply with using the paddles as well.
Now, one of the kind of disappointing things, at least for me, is that this Avalon TRD is not going to be available in all-wheel drive. I think that would have definitely been a nice touch, especially since they are making the Avalon with all-wheel drive and the Camry with all-wheel drive is just for the 4-cylinder engines only. So that's a little disappointing, but just keep in mind for this TRD, it's going to be front-wheel drive only.
Now, Sport Mode does actually net some tangible benefits. For one, the exhaust sound is a little bit louder, deeper. Some of that is enhancement from the speakers, but it does have a deeper sound inside the cabin. Steering, it's gotten heavier. So I was already, you know, pretty impressed by the way it was feeling, but I'm definitely liking it more in the Sport Mode here. It's just kind of boosted up, a little bit heavier, a little bit more my taste, but still, you know, still very accurate, and just like in all the setups.
And I should mention the fuel economy figure here before we end this. The TRD is going to come in at 22 city, 31 highway, 25 combined, which is the same fuel economy as the regular Avalon. So
yeah, I mean, is this a weird car? Yeah, I mean, this is kind of weird, you know, like, somebody at Toyota was like, let's make a sports car Avalon. And, you know, but I'm really pleased that the same company, they said yes to that. They were like, you know what? Yes, let's do it. Let's make something that's truly cool and is still an Avalon. And, you know, that really is kind of the main thing, the main takeaway from this drive for me is the fact that I'm actually having fun, like real fun, in an Avalon. Alrighty, and now let's go ahead and discuss the pricing. Now obviously this is a pretty important part of this TRD because, with this crazy cool exterior styling, you might think that it's pretty expensive, but in fact it's actually not bad. The TRD is going to start at $42,375, so it's basically the same price as the limited and touring trims. You're just going to get a little bit less equipment for that styling. Now we do have a few options on that. So we have the upgraded audio system with integrated navigation for $1,760, as well as all-weather floor liners, $259, and a rear bumper applique for $69. So then when you add the destination charge of $955, you're going to come in at $45,343, which I have to say, with something with this crazy of exterior styling, people might think you dropped 60 G's on this, and it's only 45 grand, and then you will also get discounts on top of that. So you're looking at a very affordable model here in the middle of the Avalon lineup with awesome styling.
Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2020 Toyota Avalon TRD. We really appreciate you watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.